therapists need to also understand is that if you have a beautiful website but no traffic, what does that benefit, right? And then the other side of it is, what if you have the money to invest? Let's say you built your website, but now you're able to, you did your own website, but you have money to invest in traffic, but then the website doesn't convert well. So now you lose there. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword a lot of times. And what we've generated over on our side is finding a way to balance best of both worlds, getting a beautiful website that doesn't break the bank, and then at the same time having the SEO.
Welcome to the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Collab Oasis Clinical Consultation Groups. Hi, I'm Janine Wolf, and I'm your colleague down the hall. I have a passion for helping fellow therapists get the clinical and collegial support we all need to do this work. And wow, it just keeps getting harder every day. I'm the founder and facilitator of the Collab Oasis Clinical Consultation Groups. I have been a social worker for almost 30 years, and I own a successful solo online private practice. More of us than ever are practicing in solo or online practices, and we all need colleagues to process cases with, commiserate with on those really hard days, and also to celebrate our successes with. In this podcast, I'll bring you insights about trends and changes in our field and sit down with amazing therapists who are doing amazing work. We'll discuss fictionalized cases, ways to practice sustainably, and of course, there will be plenty of laughing. I love laughing with friends. I'm so glad to have you as one of my colleagues down the hall. Hello, everyone. You are listening to another episode of the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. I'm your host, Janine Wolf, joined today by Gabe Valdez with Nerd Alert Solutions. Gabe built my beautiful website for Collab Oasis, and he also hosts and manages all of my websites. And he's been so helpful with all of my website questions that I encounter every now and then. So today we're going to talk about SEO in private practice, what it is, how to get started, and tips for maximizing its use for your private practice marketing. Welcome, Gabe. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to share any knowledge I have. And, I'm looking forward to whatever we have to talk about and go deeper into my realm of the matrix, as I like to say. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for most of us, for those who are starting out in private practice, the idea of a website or how to start marketing is very overwhelming.
Mhm.
Sometimes people start out and they are like, okay, I have no money coming in a lot of time, so I'm going to learn how to make a basic website. Some people have startup cost and they can hire someone right away. And then once they get that going, then there's other things like SEO. I think in
Mhm.
general, a lot of therapists are not real tech savvy. And so all of this can be extremely intimidating. And I have to say that I was in the first category. I had
Mhm.
no money and lots of time. So I built my very first website. And then when I needed another one, I was like, okay, I can't do this again. I need a pro to do this because it's just, I don't have any brain space to learn any more tech. And it was so, I just want to brag on you for a minute. It was so helpful because you made videos for me of all the things that like changes that I could make so that I could,
Mhm.
manage it, like small things, updates and stuff like that, copy changes and things like that, which was super helpful. And then if there's big stuff I needed to have done, then I can always reach back out to you for that. So you made it super simple for me.
Yeah. I mean, basically, what I've realized is I've worked with therapists for about 7 years now, maybe even longer. I mean, you lose track of time, like they say, when you're having fun, right? So,
Right.
but I've been doing it for a while now. I started off individually by myself, and then eventually grew into having a team and so forth, creating systems. But one of the main things I've noticed, even to what generated the growth I have now in the last probably 2 years, is a lot of therapists could be very frugal, which is understanding based on what you said. There's expenses. Even as a business owner myself, we're small. You have to learn how to manage those expenses, best utilize it, invest properly, so forth. But what comes to, a place of understanding is therapists need to also understand is that if you have a beautiful website but no traffic, what does that benefit, right? And then the other side of it is, what if you have the money to invest? Let's say you built your website, But now you're able to, you did your own website, but you have money to invest in traffic, but then the website doesn't convert well. So now you lose there. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword a lot of times. And what we've generated over on our side is finding a way to balance best of both worlds, getting a beautiful website that doesn't break the bank, and then at the same time having the SEO. But the other side too, we have to let I've also understand is as a business owner is, do we really have time? A lot of therapists, you guys, even myself at one point, we've traded time for money. That's really what we're doing. We're trading our time to sit in these sessions, to have the conversation. I'm over here talking like I'm a therapist, but
Well, you've worked with a lot of us, so you get it.
yeah, yeah. So even if you charge 200, 150, I mean, granted, that's private pay, all that stuff, you're trading time. So if you know what your time is worth, is that not also how much you're paying into doing your own website? If it takes you 5 hours to do your website, well, 5 times 200, you just spent $1,000. It's your time. So you got to also look at it that sense is that, okay, can I invest that thousand to have someone else do it so I could focus on what I need to do, better systems, better processes, better, growing the business so I can expand it, because that's what I've had to do even on my side, where I'm like, it could be as my backyard. Like I'll be like, I spent, my value is this much in time. I'll pay someone 30 an hour. It's worth it than what my value might be. So I think a lot of therapists need to come to that. And I understand everyone's at different places, different road paths and so forth. Um, but I will say this, that probably I will go, and this is being lenient, but I think it's even higher. I would say 90% of therapists, clinicians, practitioners, even doctors do not do any form of SEO. And that is huge because there's such a need for it, but no one's getting found. And it's something that a lot of people try to do themselves, and they think it's just about content. It's thinking, especially with now that we have AI, artificial intelligence, it's like, well, let me just go put up as much content as I want. Google will still honor AI content, but there's more to it than just volume. It's also about quality. It's about how you structure it. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And
um,
I just want to circle back to the one point. We are a very much female dominated field.
yes.
And especially in the US, most women have been taught, and especially as therapists, we're taught that we're not going to make money. We have to do it all. We have to work hard. And that's just the way it is. And so I absolutely agree. And I
Mhm.
talk to therapists in my consultation groups all the time about outsourcing can be your friend for exactly what you said
Yep.
about having someone do your yard. So instead of just presuming that, you shouldn't be doing that, let's make it a business decision. Let's look at the dollars and decide from there, like, does it make more sense for you to hire someone to do this? And so I love that you brought up that point. But before we go any further, let's just, for those who might be listening that don't even know what SEO stands for, can we start there?
Yeah, so SEO stands for search engine optimization. Okay. What that basically means is that when you type in something, plumber near me, mechanic near me, even if you have kids, fun things to do for birthdays, you come up as a business to facilitate the need of that search keyword, right? The beautiful thing though about SEO, search engine optimization is, and let's just talk about Google because I mean, no one's using Yahoo and all these other platforms, right?
Right.
But the main thing that's powerful is, let's say you run a Facebook ad, right? A TikTok ad, whatever it is, Instagram ad. Well, you're injecting yourself in front of an audience that you're paying to be in front of, but your goal at that time is to prove yourself. Say, hey, here I am. You don't even probably know you need me, but you might. And then you have to try to build rapport and build that into your landing page, all of that. But SEO, search engine optimization, is when someone types that into Google, they're actually in need of the service. No one says plumber near me, but doesn't need a plumber, right? Well, same
Mhm.
thing. If I type in best anxiety therapy, treatments, symptoms, whatever it is, you come up a blog, there's a good chance too, if you're local, that I'm even, now we have a lot of online therapy because of COVID and things that happen. You have a greater chance now of reaching not only what we call in the industry warm leads, but the conversion rate goes up. the probability of, because most therapists offer free consultations, and the moment they get on a call with that consultation, there's rapport. Even if it's 15 minutes, they're like, man, I really feel like, because when you're as, because I went through that as someone that used to be sick for many years, had Lyme disease, and I got healed, but I had to go through a process of going to a behavioral therapist. And I was like, when I found a good behavioral therapist, it was like I looked forward to those, because it was a
Mm-hmm.
moment I got to speak to someone and learn even behavioral therapy treatment. Like when I had the anxiety because of what the sickness was bringing on to me, I learned stuff. I learned, breathe. It's okay. It's, but I built the rapport just on the phone conversation. That wasn't even
Right.
a video consultation. So it's very, very important to have SEO, and that's basically what it is: getting found to show up on the top of Google, even your Google business profile. That shows up where, there's usually three businesses. If you click more, you see the other businesses, but you could show up there. Your conversion rate goes up tremendously, and now you're getting found, and you're able to fill up your intake, your schedule. And if you have a group practice, it's even greater, because now you're not only filling up your schedule, you're filling up other therapists and clinicians. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Yes, absolutely. So what does that look like on a person's website?
Ooh, you're opening a can of worms here.
Because it
But
seems to me, since I've been doing this, so I started my solo practice in 2016,
mhm.
and it seems like what's recommended for SEO, much like any type of marketing, has sort of changed over time. But there might be some
Yes.
basics that are still there.
Yeah, so there was an algorithm change that happened in November, and part of it was, it's probably one of the biggest ones that's happened, because AI was already running rampant. Google had came out saying, "Hey, we're not gonna do negative marking toward anyone that uses AI, but there's certain guidelines and things if you really want to utilize it in rank." But the main components is always content, fresh content. You usually want to do at least 1,500 words when you write an article. I would almost say that's probably growing. I would say it's getting up to 2,000, 3,000. Now, people will say, well, why would I write such a long thing? No one even wants to read it. The attention span now is like, 30 seconds, if that.
Mhm.
But you got to remember something. And I always tell my clients this is the one time that I say, you don't care about your audience. Okay. And what I mean by that is you have to care about the algorithm. The
Yes.
algorithm comes first before the audience. Now you have to now accommodate with the audience is the design, the user interface, some of what you're writing in there that has to resonate, right? But let's be real, not everyone's going to read the whole thing, but that's okay. As long as we could get the traffic there, get people pulled
Mhm.
in, there's a good chance that halfway through they're like, you know what? This is speaking my language. Like I want to speak to, whoever this is, and let me get a consultation. That's what you want to do. But the guidelines is typically, you want to create a Google business profile if you're local. If you're, let's say you're a clinician that does telehealth, you don't have,
Mhm.
and it's at home, you don't want to showcase your address. You could do a service area. You could create a Google business profile that showcases the service area of what you do, right? That's free. You want to definitely create social media platforms, because social media platforms, even if you don't post anything, it's still good, because social media platforms carry what we call high domain authority. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of trust. And when you put that social link from, let's say, Facebook pointing to your website and vice versa, that is actually known as, excuse me, a backlink, right? Those are easy backlinks, as we call in the industry. Another thing is find images that you can give a description on the back. That's called alt tags. So let's say if it's a woman and a man talking to, let's say, a therapist, you could say couples counseling, whatever, collab, oasis, whatever you
Mhm.
could write all that in there. So everything little, that's like the low hanging fruit stuff. Now, when you get to the advanced stuff, it's like backlinking, schema markup, data structuring, internal linking. There's all these things. And that's where a lot of therapists, I think, they feel like, okay, I'm drinking from the fire hose. I need to hire someone. This is too much.
Yes.
And that's where
Right.
we come in. But I say, at
Mhm.
least if you could create a Google business profile, write at least 5 to 10 blogs a month, make them at least 1,500 words, and try to optimize the description of what that image is about. That is somewhere good to start with. And then you
Okay.
can consider other things and other avenues and learn on if you want. So
Right. And then also writing articles for other types of media, other publications, being on podcasts and things like that, where they are willing to link your website. That also will
yes.
serve as SEO, correct?
Yes, yes. And then one thing I will say, and this I'll throw this out there because this is not happening. I see this often is when you do create a website, if you're doing it for yourself, when you have services that you have, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, right? Marriage counseling, always create an individual page for each service. Don't make one. You could have one page that maybe has them outlined with a little excerpt, description of what it is, and they can learn more. But you want to have each service have its own dedicated page that has about 1,000 words, 1,500 words, because that way you can get it to rank so that if someone searches in anxiety therapy, in, whatever it is, North Carolina, you would come up, right? That's what you want to do because a lot of therapists aren't doing that. They're putting all of it on one page and that's all they're
Hmm.
doing and hoping that
Right.
that page ranks. And it's like, no, it's too convoluted. It's too much there going on. You want to be very specific. So
Okay, great. Yeah. And so I would just like to say that the website you made for me is a perfect example of that. And I
thank
get
you.
compliments all the time. It's a beautiful website.
Thank you.
Okay, so what are some other things that obviously most people hopefully are going to build their practice in a way that they're going to get to a point where they hire someone. You build websites, you host the websites and manage them if that's what
Yep.
people want. And then you also offer SEO services. And
Hmm.
we're trying to get therapists to that point. Those who
Hmm.
aren't quite there yet. Are there other things that you can recommend that they can be thinking about? So multi-page websites obviously is a big one because I know a lot of therapists just throw up that one page and they think
Hmm.
they're good to go. And it's really not that much harder to add pages if you're already learning to make one page.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, every platform is different. So like for us, we work on WordPress. We build because it's open source, it's very SEO friendly. You own the website that you build. I'm very big on owning what is yours. I'm not a believer in renting or trying to hold hostage somebody's business because that's what it is. There are therapists that go on Squarespace, I'm sorry, or maybe even Wix, but you're renting that website. And then let's say you go and invest all this money to do SEO or whatever, you build it, but down the road you grow into a roadblock where you're no longer scalable. You can't grow into what you envisioned. Well, you lose some of that. You lose the essence of what
Hmm.
you've created and you almost start over. So it is very, very important too that you do consider what the platform is. WordPress, like when we build, we train our clients, we show them, hey, you could take, because a lot of service pages are always the same layout. So what we have is tools to duplicate that, and then all you do is just change out the copy. So it not only does it expedite the process, but it also allows our clients to feel comfortable to where if they have a new service, they don't have to feel like, oh, well, let me go reach out to Gabe and his team. Let me go like every time waiting and then like, oh, well, we're busy. You got to wait 4 days or 2 days. No, they have full capabilities. We train them. They're not handcuffed to us. We're here if they need us. But at that point, too, from a business side, and I understand money is always can be an object of an issue, but we do have to consider too is a business is still a business, and every business you have to look at money as a tool. You have to be willing to invest. Even I invest. I do a lot of stuff internally, but there's software I invest. I'm investing in a software I'm generating right now to even be able to lower web design costs for potential clients moving forward. It's always an investment, right? But you have to be willing to learn and take mistakes as a learning lesson
Hmm.
and start somewhere. Even start with lowering your prices at first. Build in the audience, build in that traffic, and then grow. I used to do websites for $300.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was before WordPress, that was
Right.
writing from scratch. So things have changed, but it's going to come down to the platform and what you're capable to
Hmm.
do and feel comfortable to do. But I think therapists do have to be honest with themselves too and finally say, you know what? I tried to build this. I don't like it. It doesn't do what I want because I do have therapists too that build websites and they're doing nothing. It's doing nothing. It's just sitting there on the internet because gone are the days where you could build it and traffic would come. There's a
Hmm.
lot of competition and ever since COVID, we grew 300% when COVID hit because there was a lot of therapists that realized that they weren't ready, they weren't telehealth ready, They couldn't see any more clients or patients internally, so everything went virtual. We grew because of that. So you now have to understand that if you're in that beginning process too, you're now playing catch up with a lot of people that have been doing this for 7 to 10 years. It
Right.
doesn't mean you can't rank. It just means you have to be also realistic with yourself, because SEO even itself takes time. It could take 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 months, and it depends on your area, depends on the competition, how long they've been there, stuff like that. But there is no clear, easy way to, I mean, it's just start. Honestly,
Hmm.
it's just start. That's all it
Yep.
is. If it
Yep.
just start with something, grow into it, adjust where you need to adjust, and that's it. Because at the end of the day, everywhere, there's not a simple way to answer that, because everyone's at
Hmm.
different places, everyone's
Sure.
different financially, the area, the platform. But I would just say start. Start with
Hmm.
something, build something, and then grow from there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. And I do just want to acknowledge that one of the problems with therapists in private practice, unlike other business owners, is we are given no business training when we are
that's
getting
true.
our master's degree or working towards our licensure. And on top of that, we're pretty much taught that you're never going to make any money, the hours are going to be terrible, but you love to help people. And that's why you're doing this. And that's fine, but it doesn't help you save for retirement. It doesn't necessarily help you have a livable wage. If you only take insurance clients, you may not be making enough money to be able to afford all these things. And so there are many reasons. And I want to acknowledge this for not because of what you said, but for therapists who might be listening, that there's some money mindset work that we need to do in our field.
This
And there's ways that we can balance private pay and taking insurance or having reduced fees for certain populations and things like that. So people that are listening thinking like, well, gosh, I'm looking at what I make from insurance panels and there's no way I can afford this. I just want to challenge them to think, okay, well, what are the ways that I can maybe do a mix of two? Can I go off a couple of panels so that I can take private pay people on? Are there other ways that I can be doing this? So, but because I think ideally we want therapists to get to a point where they can not only afford to pay themselves, save for retirement, but also pay professionals like you so that we can really get exposure and help the people who are looking for us, because that's what this is about. We don't want to just have people find us. We want the people that we work with really well to find us.
Yeah, and I really agree with that too, because even with our prices that we have, because I used to do websites for 4 or 5 thousand dollars starting, and we charge a fraction of that these days, but because we've created systems and things like that. But I think there's a negative, there's like a bad taste going around a lot of therapists too, because they've seen or they've heard of the cost, and then that's why everyone's just going like, well, let me build it myself, right? But I think if you find the right team, the right people, you can get a white glove delivery that's
Mm-hmm.
professional without breaking your bank, right? And I really think too, that's the mindset two therapists have to think of, is that this is something to grow into, that
Mm-hmm.
can really change their life, that they can grow into from a private practice to potentially a group practice, and then not have to see so many, and then have other therapists under them. And because I meet a lot of people that started that way, worked with us, went to group, and now they over just see their business, their practice, and they're only
Mm-hmm.
seeing barely a handful of patients. But our cost is very reasonable. Our cost is very inexpensive. I'm not talking about all that on here, but they can, down the road, if they find our information, they can look into that,
Sure. Yeah.
and where they can see prices and stuff like that. Because we give a lot, even in our
Yes.
SEO, we give a lot for our price. I know I could easily charge 2, 3 times more, but I understand where a lot of therapists are, and that's why I created a new business model around it, because I didn't want to break the bank for therapists. I understood where a lot of them were coming from, but I also had to make it so that I'm not eating ramen and hot dogs on my side
Right.
either. So I had
Exactly.
to find that middle ground to where it's
Mm-hmm.
beneficial as a business owner and it's beneficial as a new business starting, to where they get a beautiful professional website, get traffic to go to that, to where they can
Mm-hmm.
grow and get the clients they need, and then we're still able to have our doors open, and I can pay my team and so forth. So it's been
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah, yeah. And, this isn't like the Gabe marketing show by any means, but I have experience with you and I want to speak to that because I agree your prices were very reasonable. And the amount of touch that I had with you was so important. We had multiple meetings where we looked at examples, we looked at color schemes, we looked at fonts. You would show me something and say, "What do you think?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't like this. Can we change that?" We would have another meeting to kind of talk about, well, maybe you recommended that for a reason that I'm not aware of. So
Yeah.
maybe I want to reconsider that. You were very much guiding me and helping me with all of that. And that's so important because I know there are people that have web builders that just they're like, give me your copy, and they make this website, and the person's sort of like left spinning, like, what this, this isn't what I wanted, or oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how did this happen? And I have no idea, how I even got here. And so I think that high touch service is really important for therapists to consider as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the key things we say is we do white glove delivery. So it's kind of like when you buy the furniture, they deliver it, they bring it out of the truck, they unwrap it, take the trash away. You say, where do you want it? Oh, and then you're like, oh, move it to the left a little, move it to the right, all that stuff. We're very big on that. So I've taken what I used to do in the sense of everything being fully custom, but then the cost being high, to building a
Hmm.
framework where there, because a lot of therapist sites are very similar in build. So I built a
Hmm.
framework to streamline it, cut cost on our side so we can now expedite the build process, still provide high level quality work where it doesn't feel like it's just some template. And then it still has the essence of your brand, your character, your, who you are. That's one
Hmm.
of the things I was able to really, it took me a year to figure this out, but I was able to do it. And as soon as I did that, we launched mid last year and I mean, it's just been growing, 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 growing. And I still have people that are like they're blown away on our prices because they're like, oh,
Hmm.
like wow, like okay, I mean, it's not $500 or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not 3,000. It's even under that, and even our SEO
Right.
is very inexpensive for what we
Hmm.
do. So, and again, I'm not even saying this because it's like, hey guys, come to me. I'm not saying because we are busy, you know. But I say,
Right.
but what I say that is to give hope to the therapist that's starting to say, look, you can hire professional services out there and not feel like you have to go and take out a home equity loan, refinance your house or something, and still get what's necessary to grow into something professional, look professional, start ranking, and start really becoming what you envisioned to what started you the process. Because at the end of the day, you still invested to get your degree. I invested to
Right.
get my degree, right? So at one point or another, you have to look at it as you're going to invest something, whether it's time, sweat, tears, or money. You're going to invest something. And just know that whoever you hire, you got to feel confident in and that they're going to provide some results and get you what you envision to where you want to go. So I
Hmm.
just want to encourage
Absolutely.
those therapists out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say, for my therapy website, one of the things that one of the main populations I work with are women who are diagnosed later in life as having ADHD. And it's
Mm.
not uncommon. I put a lot of time and effort into my copy, and it's not uncommon at the end of a consultation call to say, I'm feeling like we're a good fit. What do you think? And they're like, oh, the minute I read your website, I knew you were the right person for me. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want to hear. That's the first point of contact to start connecting with people. And you want it to be in your own voice and with your, the way you function. So and so then you can do that as well with the blogging and the other things. So people feel like they're getting to know you. They're having that personal experience while you're still brand new to them, but you're warming them up. They're thinking like, "Oh, I like the way she talks. I like the way she thinks. Maybe this is someone I want to work with."
Yeah, and that's even with our like the SEO when we write our blogs, we write just start like our lowest plan, we do 20 blogs a month. And that's not even the other things included. But even that, like we pick the images, we
Mhm.
write all the copy, and our clients can approve it if they want to. Some of our clients are like, I trust you, just
Mhm.
do it, post it. But what's powerful about that is it's kind of like it's getting done. You get reporting, you get results, and you don't have to worry about it. You focus on your patients, which you can do, how to grow
Mhm.
it, and you're in good hands. So
Yes. Mhm.
yeah, I try to make it very easy because a lot of
Yeah.
therapists too, they're not tech savvy. They don't
Right.
know a lot of things. They're just going based off of a lot of times too, it's like they'll talk to someone like you and just like, well, you got a website. Like, what did you do? Like, who did you
Mhm.
talk to? And then it's like, okay. So there, it's very, because a lot of people come to me through other groups like Facebook groups. My name gets dropped a lot because there's already that rapport there. So it's like, well, this guy has worked with this people. Then I feel like, yeah, there's a lot. This name is being dropped a lot. He's a specialist. Somebody will talk to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to be able to offer that service though, and
Yeah.
build into this atmosphere of
Okay.
working with you guys.
Okay. So let's go ahead then and talk about the SEO services you do provide. So you actually write the blogs for
Mhm.
therapists. How does that work?
So we have custom software that basically takes it's pulling from a lot of areas, right? It
Okay.
looks at Google, it looks at keywords, it looks at volume,
Mm-hmm.
it looks at the topic of what we're going to write about. Then it basically will outline the structuring of how we want, like here's an introduction, here's the middle
Okay.
component. One of the things too is when you write articles now is you have to write in the form of top five, best, whatever it is, right? Or,
Mm-hmm.
here's the easy guide or whatever
Okay.
it is, introduction to something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we
Right.
write with a lot of emphasis on that. We even write articles where we will say top five anxiety practices near you. That's the title. But that is a long, what we call long tail keyword research. Someone will put that, anxiety therapy near me, best anxiety therapy near me, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
keyword is in there. But you'll say, well, why are we going to talk about other therapists like my competitors? Well, because those competitors are already ranking. So what we're actually doing is we're pulling from their leverage, their weight
Mm-hmm.
into your article because they're already Google sees them to rank. But guess what? We're
Okay.
also incorporating on the top five your own business. So we
Mm-hmm.
might talk about four competitors, but we're also including ourselves, not ourselves, but the client
Mm-hmm.
into that blog post. So we write things like that. Typically, our articles are at least around 2,000 words on the
Okay.
average, and that could go
Mm-hmm.
up or down depending. We did used to create YouTube videos. We don't do that anymore. Google changed the algorithm, and because that it wasn't as effective. So now it's
Mm-hmm.
just images and text. And then we basically, once it's written, we either showcase it to our clients, like, hey, what do you think of this? Do you want us to change anything? Are we hitting the mark? Or if they're good with it, they trust us, we just publish it on their website.
Okay.
And at that point, it's already optimized. We do all the
Mm-hmm.
back end stuff so that it starts to get indexed, starts creating traffic. And it's been exciting. We've changed a lot. Once the algorithm shifted, we added a lot of new things, shifted a lot of things with our SEO package. And
Mm-hmm.
in 2 months, I've seen more growth than I've ever seen. It's
Wow. That's
pretty
wonderful.
powerful. Yeah, for our clients.
Okay.
I've seen things shift. So
Okay. So it sounds like from a user's per client perspective on my end that you're not having me look at emails every single day. You're not putting a heavy weight on me. You're taking the load, you're
Mhm.
doing the work, you're saying these are the things that if you want to approve, you can. Maybe you've been doing this for a while and they're like, no, your content is always great. So I'm fine with you doing that. So
Yep.
it sounds like you really do take the weight of the load for this.
Yep. And we write everything from topics covering like neurodivergent, BIPOC, anxiety, depression, sex therapy, couples counseling. I mean, even to teens, children's counseling stuff. I mean, we've done a volume, and that's where it could get tricky because everyone has a different approach too for how they would treat some of these, services that are needed. But the goal is we try to just write in the emphasis of educating, the
Mm-hmm.
emphasis of those keywords without because we'll never be able to speak your tone. We'll never be able to
Sure.
speak, how you would write. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to capture more the keyword to the audience to
Mm-hmm.
what they're looking for while still incorporating some of the essence of you, some of your
Sure.
branding and what you talk about. So we do find a balance and we have tools. We even use some AI to kind of look at everything, scrape your site, build like this avatar profile to inject into how our writing style is and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do some magical tricky stuff here that works, but it's been powerful to see the results of it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So before we wrap things up, I just wanted to find out. I know you're not a therapist, but I love to ask everyone this question. Do you have a catchphrase or analogy you like to do with your clients and when you're building website or doing SEO with?
Yes, my saying is always work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
I always tell people, and this could sound like a negative thing, but I say, look, I'm the lazy guy that you want to hire. And they're like, wait, what? Why would I hire someone that's lazy? It doesn't work because what I do is I try to be proficient. I'm the guy that always knows there's a better way to be more effective and proficient in systems and things. And what that does is it also that has trickled even into how I train my clients because
Hmm.
it's allowing them to say, oh, well, I don't have to build a whole web page from scratch if I want to add a new service. He just showed me how to copy it, duplicate it, and I'm done in 15 minutes, right?
Hmm.
So we've created ways and systems that have literally allowed us to grow our business. So why I say that in here on this podcast is work smarter, not harder, is because we live in a day of technology where you can literally grow your business overnight if done properly. Because now
Hmm.
you're no longer having to send out flyers, emails. You could literally put your business out there from Google, Facebook. There's so many avenues. But if it's not done properly, what you're going to do is feel frustration. You're going to feel like it's not working. And you're going to feel like, well, this is pointless. But if you have the right person, you're going to get the results. You're going to get
Hmm.
what's needed. And then you're going to start to say, well, why didn't I do this sooner? Even me,
Right.
for a long time, I didn't hire somebody. I didn't even want to hire one person. I was like, I'll do it all. No one's going to know how
Right.
to do it like me. And then I started to get in that process of hiring. And I'm like, I am like 8 years behind. Like, what the heck? Like, I should have done
Yeah.
this so much sooner,
Right.
and so I just want to encourage and is just learn, work smarter, not harder. You don't have to do
Yeah.
everything. And there's people that have done it and can do it easier. And it doesn't always mean you're gonna have to sell an arm and a kidney to get it to work,
Exactly. Right. Right.
So
Yes. And that applies to so many areas of our lives, so
yes.
many areas. Well, Gabe, I really appreciate you joining me today and sharing all this information. Would you please tell the listeners where they can find out more about what you have to offer, how they can connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so we have two agencies, but the agency I will let everyone go to because it's more specialized for this industry. It's called Web Therapia. It's WEB Therapia, THERPIA.com. And everything there they need to know about pricing. We're very transparent. It's very easy to understand what we do and all that. They can find us there. And if they want to talk more, they can book a free discovery call and we kind of go into what their needs are. We talk about the process. We go a little deeper, and that's really it. It's very very simple, and we do have a little bit of a wait list,
Okay. That's a good thing.
because that yeah, it could be good or bad depending how you look at it. Since I said
Right.
I like to be lazy, you know,
Yeah.
but that's how they can find us and learn more information
Okay.
about our services and stuff.
Great. Okay. And I'll be sure to put those links in the show notes so people can find that pretty easily.
Okay.
For everyone listening, there are new episodes of the Colleague Down the Hall podcast released every Thursday on all major platforms. Please remember our work is hard. It doesn't have to be lonely.
Thank you so much for listening to the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to colleaguedownthehall.com, where you'll be able to learn more about getting the clinical support you need and resources to help you work in a supported, sustainable way. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your therapy friends and colleagues. Subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.